Okay, we're up to Chaf Dal Amid Aleph. Chaf Dal Amid Aleph. We had a machloikis between Rav and Shmuel exactly whether it was a din of Avelis on Shabbos or not. Right? In fact, we thought it was machloikis Tanoim. We said not. So there's a Shmuel seems to say ein Avelis on Dvarim shebetzina. So in Tashma Samita, linyan Rechitza, things that are done betzina, whether there's a din of Avelis or not. So that's we're going to be introduced to Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Where if you look at the Taisus Leishanu, parallel to that, about 3 lines down, the beginning of the line, Amar Shmuel, and you start off with an acronym, and we'll fill in the blanks. Pachaz chayva, Peis Chefs Zayin is a chayv, Natar Nun Taf Reish is a rishus. Now, what does the Peis stand for? It's Priyas Roish, meaning you can't have your head wrapped up. As Avelis, I told you, they used to wrap their heads. We saw that, but we don't do that anymore. But they used to wrap their heads. Ches is chazarta karal achayrav. You turn your rip to the back. We have 2 garments. They had 1 garment that was ripped. They would turn to the back that you wouldn't see it on Shabbos. Again, these are the opinion ein Avelis for Shabbos. So kivas amita. And the zayin is to take the bed that was turned over, now set it up straight. That's a choiv. You have to do that. And that's the pei chazayim, priyas roish, chazeres karla chayrav, and skivas amita. What's the nun tas reish? The nun is nilas a sandal. The taf is tashas amita. And the reish is rechitzas yadayim. That's a rishus. The chamin and washing your feet and your hands in hot water. This is rishus. For Ravam, af priyas roish rishus. Even priyas roish should be a rishus. Ushmuel maishna neilas a sandal the rishus. Wearing your shoes is a rishus whether he wears it or not. The lav kuli alma avidi the sami misanayu. In other words, guys, if there's ein avelis b'Shabbos, any act that you do that can be construed as avelis is problematic. Shmuel says it's rishus to go ahead and not wear shoes. If you're not wearing shoes, it appears if you're a novel, because there are many people who walk around the house without shoes. So that you wear not wearing shoes is not a statement of Avelis. You're not making a statement of Avelis. You're just not wearing your shoes. People cover their hairs in the house. So even if you're misatef, also it should be a choiv not to do. Since people do it, if you would do it, it's not a raya that you're in Avelis. And for the Gemara, Shmuel Tamei Dama Shmuel, Kol Kera Sheini B'Shas Hakimum, any Kera, we're going to go back to this in a minute. Any rip that's not done when you're in grief, when you're a moment of grief, that's Eina Kareh, it's not considered a rip. And here's what we need right now. The Chol Atifas She'eina Katifas Yishve'elim, and any wrapping that's not like wrapping of a Arab, Eina Atifa. Pirish. People would, in fact, keep their hair covered in the house, but they wouldn't keep it covered like an Arab. An oval keeps it covered like an Arab. So therefore, that's the difference. Priyas Rosh, going ahead and taking off your Arabic turban, whatever that looked like, whatever, the way you were misatif like an Arab, that you have to take off. Because if you don't, clearly you're being misabel on Shabbos, ve'ein avelis b'Shabbos. You're not wearing shoes. Many people don't wear shoes. Mochi Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman showed where is a tifa of an Arab is ad guve didikna. Over here, you cover your cheeks and your nose up till here. That would be the covering of an Arab. I guess you'd be misate from the side. Amar of Yaakov, Amar of Yochanan, Lo Shanu Ela She'ein Lo Minala Biraglov. Right? That we said that you can't cover your hair like an Arab is a problem. Is what? Only if you're not wearing shoes. Aval Yesh Lo Minala Biraglov. If you're wearing shoes, Min Olav Mechichin Olav. So watch. You're covering your head like an Arab. It's just siman of Avelis. Ain't Avelis b'Shabbos. But I'm wearing shoes. The fact that I'm wearing shoes shows that I'm not Navelis, and it counteracts that, and therefore won't be a problem. We mentioned that any rip, any rip that's not b'shas kareya is not considered a rip. Shmuel said, Noach nafshei derav. I saw a pshat in a sefer. I have this great sefer. Many years ago, someone gave me this. This is the real Rashi. The Rashi we have is not the real Rashi. And in the sefer, there's a pirish called Rav Shlomo ben Hayasam. He's a Rishon. And he explains Lo Noach nafshi. Noach means his nefesh is at ease. It means he dies. So it means that he's finished with the travails of this world. That's why anytime the Gemara says Noach nafshi, like menuchas hanefesh, he has menuchas hanefesh from this world. So it's a lashon naki of what? Of Misa. So what happened? When Shmuel heard that Rav died, Korala traced some money, he ripped 12 garments of clothing. Amar, Ozl Gavra, a person that I was scared of in his kashas. I was scared of Shrav's kashas. He's gone. The Gemara is going to ask. When he heard about the Misa, it's not shas chimum, it's not a moment of grief. So how can he rip? Another question, same question. They told Rabbi Chanina that they told Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Chanina was nifta. So Korila Tilsa it's melasa. He went ahead and ripped. He had 12 shirts, silk shirts. Omar Ozl Gavra Namistafina Meneg. The same reaction. This person who asked me, I was scared of his kashas. Rabbi Yochanan says has left the world. So you have a kasha. It's not shas chimum. Says Mar Shani Rabbanon. The chim in the kol shaita mitkri shmaitza. Every time you're going to go ahead and think of what they're learning, kishas chimum dam. It's considered kishas chimum, and therefore it's considered a good kareh, a good kara, a good rip. Amar Ravin bar Adol Rava. Amar Talmidcha Rav Amram Tanya. Avil kol shiva kareh lefanav. And avil all 7 days, the rending is in front of him. Then bola hachlif, and if he wants to go ahead and change his clothing, machlif, he changes his clothing. The kareh and he rips again. That's a kasha, guys, right? It's not shaschimim anymore. It's not the first time he heard about it, right? It's not the initial grief. So you see that's not considered ripping. On Shabbos, he takes his ripped garment and turns it around. Then bola hachlif, if he wants to go ahead and change his clothing for Shabbos, like we do, machlif, he changes his clothing. Ve'ina kareh, he doesn't rip it. The bottom line is the kashas from the first case. Over there, he's switching his clothing, he's ripping again, and it's not shaschimim. So how can you, Shmuel, say that any kareh, change kareh is not what? Shaschimim is not a kareh. It says, Kitanya he b'kivid of ve'im. B'kivid of ve'imai. We saw this earlier. The one is a din in Hilchas Kriya, one's a din in Hilchas Kivad ve'im. The first din, the din of kareh, that's b'shaschimim. That then rips the second time is the cover of his parents. That then rips the second time is the cover of his parents. He's showing cover for them. And it's not, and therefore it's not a din in, it's not in Hilchas Kriya. Those ripping, that second ripping you would do if you would change your shirt. Misachin, are you able to permanently stitch it up? Or a misachin? We said for a parent, you can go ahead and stitch it temporarily after 30 days, but you couldn't go ahead and after 7 or 30, I think maybe 30, but you couldn't go ahead and sorry, excuse me. But you could not go ahead you couldn't go ahead and permanently stitch it ever. So over here, what could you do? This second thing that you did to cover your parents, are you able to stitch it up permanently or not? Are you able to get it fixed? Bring it to the tailor. So pligiba avu de Rav Oishia. We have machlokas between the father Rabbi Shaya uba kapara. Chad Omar, one of them says, we don't know who says what. Chad Omar a misachin. One says you cannot permanently fix it. The Chad Omar misachin, you could. Now, this time I want to bring a raya. It must be the father of Rabbi Shia who said you can't. The Amar of Oishia, because Rabbi Shia, what the son said, a misachin. Now, who did he hear it from? Miman Shemialei Lav Me'avua. So if Rabbi Oishia said you can't fix it permanently, it must be he heard it from what? His father, Avu the Rabbi Shia. Says, well, you have no raya. Let me back up Rabbi Shmielei, back up who disagreed. Maybe you heard it from him. So we don't know who said what. Amarava, Oval Matayel Wonkali in his Besoich Besa in his house, he's able to walk around, I guess on Shabbos, with his ripped clothing. Abayi Ashkel Rav Yosef, the Paris Le Sudra Aresha, he was walking around in his house with his head covered. For Ozl Vyosef Besa, Amalei Lav Sovit. So he said, Abayi said to Rav Yosef, Mar Ein Avelis B'Shabbos. Don't you hold that ain't available b'Shabbos? So how could you go be walking around with your head covered up? Amalei hachim Rabbi Yochanan. The varm shibit sinanoyeg, things that are but sinanoyeg. Now, We just had machloikus between Rav and Shmuel, right? We said one is a choiv, one's a rishus. We said that you can't go ahead and have your head written like an Arab because look, it's a simon of avelis, right? You can't walk around without shoes because again, some people it's just means dovashib it's sinna. You're right. It's mashma avelis. You can't do avelis tikadin b'Shabbos. Says Rabbi Yosef. 1 second. I could wear an Arab. I could wear my head turned like an Arab. Why? Because you're in the house. So notice it's through a machloikas between Rav, Shmuel, and Rabbi Yochanan. There's a three machloikas. They hold that what that things that are even varnish bit sinna, if it's available, you shouldn't be able to do. And Rabbi Yochanan says you could. If you look at this Taisus, guys. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan devam shebit sinna nayig. Pasik bilchus gedailos Rabbi Yochanan. And the Bahag passes to Rabbi Yochanan. Lafukim Rav Shmuel Dami Leel Tashus Shamita b'Shus. They held Tashmus as Rishus. Rabbi Yochanan says Dovish shebit sinna would be Aser. Udvar shebit sinnahu. Uperakamedik subis nami kamar Allah Messiah Rabbi Yochanan Dabai Varava Sabi Kavaisei. The afag of the Kaimelani is asking Kasha. Halacha Kedivya Meko. Throughout this perik, we've been saying the halacha is like what? Is the halacha, like Shmuel says, the halacha is Divya Meko. We're always Meko by Avelis. So question, why are we passing like Rabbi Yochanan versus Rab and Shmuel? If Rab and Shmuel were Meko in Tashmish, we should be passing like Rab and Shmuel, not like Rabbi Yochanan. Good? Guys, throughout, right? Now listen to this side. Hani mili machlokes shel tanoyim. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yossi. If it's a machlokes tanoyim, then we pass in lakula. Avul ben milsad amaroy loy amron. If it's a machlokes amaroyim, like Rab and Shmuel versus Rabbi Yochanan, we can even be machmir by avelis. Le'inyan tanoyim will say divri hamekel be'avelis. Le'inyan amaroyim, and this is the first time we have machlokes by amaroyim, we're going to be machmir. Good taisvus to know. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer oimer mishachar beis hamikdash atzeres b'Shabbos. Okay, we said that let's go back to the Mishnah for a second, okay? It's a ways back. Really a ways back. Your test, guys. Your test. A long time ago. We said Shabbos counts as the Avelis is not mafsik. Regolim are mafsik. Ve'ina oilim, they don't count. Rabbi Eliezer oimer mishachar beis hamikdash atzeres k'Shabbos. Asheres is like Shabbos, that it's not mafsik, and it counts towards the Shiva. Rabbi Gamliel oimer Rosh Hashanah v'yom Kippurim k'regolim. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, despite being 1 day, they will be like regolim, and therefore they will be mafsik. If the Avelis begins, it'll be mafsik. Like neither. Atzeres k'regolim. Atzeres are like regolim. Rosh Hashanah v'Shabbat Yom Kippur k'Shabbos. So we have 3 shitas. Rabbi Eliezer says that what we'll treat Shavuos as 1 day. Rabbi Gamliel says we'll treat it as what? As 7 days. And some say, and we'll treat Rosh Hashanah. Again, so look at the machlokes is clear. Look at the Taisus Bayas Chav Daled. Rabbi Eliezer says Atzeres k'Shabbos, right? Why would he hold about Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah? The Kol Shekain, guys, you have the Taisus, 3 Taisus in the bottom. Atzeres k'Shabbos, the Kol Shekain, and certainly Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur. Madoch, guys, look at me. Madoch Shvuos, which we see Bizman Abayis, has 7 days of Tashlumin. We'll keep it as a 7-day. And Rebbe Eliezer holds it's a 1 day, it's considered like Shabbos. Certainly Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur, that no matter when throughout history is only 1 day, Rebbe Eliezer will treat it as Shabbos. Comes along Rebbe Gamliel and disagrees with that. No, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are like regolim. They're like regolim. V'hachi kamar Rebbe Gamliel. Rebbe Gamliel Omer, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur kiregolim v'kol shekain la'atzeres la'achal churbin. he disagrees, even though he didn't mention anything in the Mishnah about Atzeres, guys. Tosfos is informing us. Rabbi Eliezer, who says Atzeres is one day, would hold, it's like Shabbos and it counts, would hold Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur also counts. It's like Shabbos. Rabbi Gamliel, who says Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is like Yontif, would certainly hold Atzeres is Yontif, right? So they argue across the board totally. They're totally arguing across the board. Okay, anyway. Says the Gemara now. Amar Rav Gidl bar Menashe, Amar Shmuel, halach Rabbi Gamliel. The halach is like Rabbi Gamliel. The halach is like Rabbi Gamliel that will treat Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and Atzeres all the 7 days. Vikid the Masilol the Rav Gidl bar Menashe, aha, kol lamid yoim, all 30 days. Tinak yoytze b'cheik v'nikva. Okay, let's say a child dies before 30 days old, so you won't put it. Let's be magish 3 places. 1, you don't put it in a box at all. 2, there's a deluskama, there's a box. 3, there's a mita, there's a bed. 1 is that the mita is the normal. So if a child's 30 days old, you know what you're going to do? You're going to just carry it. The chek, you carry it over here to the burial. The nikva b'isha achas u'shnei anashim. It can be buried between 1 woman and 2 men because that's not yichud. Avaloi b'isha echad u'shnei nashim. But not 1 man and 2 women, because that is yichud. 1 man and 2 women, the Gemara in Kedusha says is yichud. You can even bury them with 1 man and 2 women. Look at top Taisus. Even though 1 man can be with 2 women, the 3-day shari says Abshalom, since you're Tori by the Avelis, the Yetzer Hara is not so strong. Masha'en Kain, guys, everyone admits, even Abishol, 1 man and 1 woman would not be able to bury. 1 man and 1 woman would not be able to bury. Basically, Kvaris is a place that's very quiet, and people aren't there. Now, this child that's being buried, that's 30 days old, you wouldn't set up a shura for him that the Avelim should walk through. It was a minute to say, they used to say Berachov Birchas Avelim, you wouldn't say it. Nor does the Nicham Avelim. They wouldn't sit Shiva and the Avelim would come. However, Ben Shloshim, if he's 30 days old, Yoitza Bidaluskama, he goes in a box, not being carried by the chest. If you doimer, Loy Deluskama, Hani tell us Piksav, not a Deluskama that goes on the shoulder, Elan tell us Bagapayim, it has to be held with hands, for 2 people be involved. And since he's 30 days old, you would have a Meshura of Menachemim, a row of Menachemim. You make the brachos of Avelim, and they would sit Shiva and you be Menachem them. Ben Yud Beis Chodesh, if the child is 12 months old, Yoitze b'mita, he gets the normal mita, they used to carry out something called the mita. He's no different than any other human being. Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Hu ben shana ve'varv ben shtayim. Hu ben shtayim ve'varv ben shana. It's not the Yud Beis that does it. It has to be 2 years old. Now, Memanav Shach, if he's a 12 months, but he looks like a 2-year-old, or he's a 2-year-old who looks like a year-old, it doesn't make a difference. As long as there's a capacity of 2. That argues on the Tanakam, who said 12 months period. Yoitze b'mita, he would go on the mita. Reb Shimon Elazar Aimer, hayoitze b'mita, Rabbim matziv malav. Someone is yoitze b'mita, the Rabbim, they literally, their faces, they turn red, they misabel over them. They don't have to go ahead and display any avelis. If he's Nikol Rabbim, means he's old enough to go in and out of the house, then Rabbim is asking, but Rabbim will go ahead and be misasik with him. They'll be involved with him. In a Nikol Rabbim, if he's not recognized to the Rabbim, now Nikol means that they stop working, they console the father. How if the child is not Nikol Rabbim, then not. Again, this different degrees of age and what. What's the halacha of hesped? What age do you have to be to get a hesped? If it's an ani, a 3-year-old, ashir b'nei chamesh. If it's an ashir, a 5-year-old. An ani feels it worse. He doesn't have much in life, so therefore the child is very dear to him, or because he's an ani, the child works and helps out at home. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, Aniyim is b'nei chamesh at not at 3 but at 5, and Ashir not at 5 but at 6. U'b'nei sekanim, when a child gets old, when a person gets old, k'b'nei aniyim, they're like b'nei aniyim, despite their whatever money they have, because when you get old, you need your child as well as the ani needs the child. Therefore, like Rabbi Yehuda would be 5 years old. Amar Rav Gidl Menashe, this is where we learned it. Amar Rav Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. How do we get into this? We said we had a statement going back to the Amar Aleph. We had a statement of Rav Gidl Amar Rav that the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. Now we have some people, some Tanoim learned the Rav Gidl Bar Menashe. Some people learned Rav Gidl Bar Menashe on this sugya, and here it is. We led up to this. Amar Rav Gidl Bar Menashe Amar Rav Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is not Rabbi. But not Rabbi, not discussing Rabbi Gamliel. He learned the Rav Gidl's statement on this statement. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda that what it says in the name of Mishmol, the ages of 5 and 6, 5 for the ani and 6 for the what for the usher. That's the age where what you give a hesped to. Dorish Rabbanani by Sosan Apiska the Benasiya, Rabbanani by Sosan Hidashin on the Pesach the Benasiya. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres. They die one day before Atzeres. Then you have Atzeres. Harikan Arba Asa. You have 14 days out of the 30 guys. The first day counts as 7. Then you're mafsik. Atzeres we said counts as 7. So 7, 7, 14 out of the 30. So Shomer Ravami heard the statement of what? Of Ranani by Sasain, and he was makbid because he wasn't saying B'Shem Amrei. Atu Didehu, is that his own statement? It's a statement of Rabbi Lezer ben Oshaya. Dorish Rav Yitzchak Nafcha Akila the Reish Galusa. Rav Yitzchak Nafcha he dashed in the porch of the Reish Galusa. Yomecha Lefnei Atzeres Harikana Ba'asa. The same statement. One day before Atzeres, then Atzeres, 14 days out of the 30. Shomer of Sheshus and Ikbid, he was makbid. Atu Didehu, is that is your own statement? The Rebbe Lezer Rebbe Shehu. It's the statement of Rebbe Lezer ben Oshaya. The Amr here, who is it? The Amr of Rebbe Lezer ben Oshaya. Minayin Atzeres Sheish Tashlum Kol Shiva. How many Atzeres guys? 7 days you can make up. If you don't bring your Oilis Re'i or Shalmei Chagiga, how many you have 7 days after the Yontif to make it up? Shneimar, it says, B'chag HaMatzos, U'b'chag HaShvuos, U'b'chag HaSukkos. We had this Gemara in the beginning of Rosh Hashanah. Ma Chag HaMatzos, Yesh Lo Tashlumim Kol Shiva. Just like Chag HaMatzos has 7 days of Tashlumim, because it is 7 days. Av Chag HaShvuos, which is only 1 day, Yesh Lo Tashlumim Kol Shiva. Therefore, the Inyan Avelis will count that 1 day as 7 days. And they were very geschmack. So why was Rav Anani and why was Rav Yitzchak Dafka saying it? They should have said it right in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Shaya, who was mechadish this thing. Adri Rav Papel Rav Avia Saba. Rav Papel was guiding. He was hailing. Rav Avi was a Saba. He was an old man. He was helping him along. The Darish Yoim Echad Lefnei Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah Harikan Arba Asa. That's a total of 14. Amravina Hilkach Yoim Echad Lefnei Achag. 1 day before Sukkot, the Chag and Sukkot, the Shmini Shaloi and Shmini Atzeres, Harikan Esem Ve'echad Yoim. You should have 21 days out of the 30. Ravina Ikla the Surah the Paras. Ravina showed up in Surah the Paras. Amalei Rav Chaviva, the Surah the Paras the Ravina. Amamar Yoim Echad Lefnei Rosh Hashanah of Rosh Hashanah Harikan Arba'as is a total of 14. Amalei Anam Mistabek Rabbi Gamliel Havamina. He said it like Rabbi Gamliel. Now it's machlokes exactly what that means. Is he saying that what that Rabbi Gamliel said that to tell me that stam that Rosh Hashanah is considered a yontif, or he's telling me no, that it means only 7 days and not 14 days? That's the machlokes over here. Okay, fellas, we'll stop over here. Tomorrow I'm going to say share at 9 o'clock, guys. Tomorrow I'm going to say share.